Hello everyone, I'm the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we're going to be continuing to track Hurricane Elsa as it once again has become a hurricane in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. Before we do begin, however, be sure to like and subscribe as well as share, as these are the little things that do help my channel grow. I'm going to get straight into it here, talking about Hurricane Elsa. Yes, as of the 8 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, it is officially, once again, a hurricane as it was over the Caribbean. Now, we already know earlier today there were hurricane warnings from Tampa up through the Big Bend of Florida. So that meant hurricane conditions were likely or expected. So this did end up strengthening into a hurricane. Now, because it was an 8 p.m. intermediate advisory, the cone is not updated. So even though it says that it would be about a 75 on landfall, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 80 or 85 miles per hour. So right now, it is a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane. Winds gusting to 85 miles an hour. It is moving due north, and minimum pressure has dropped a couple more millibars down to 996. So, if this is going to continue to move due north, this will bring it into the Big Bend area. All right, I don't think it's going to go any farther west than that. I think we're on a due north track at this point, and might soon start tracking north-northeast. But it looks like it will pass west of Tampa. All right, the storm would have been a little bit weaker if it had made landfall on Tampa because it would have less time to strengthen. Now I'm going to talk about as well why it could strengthen more. All right, but Key West, I was watching all day from Key West. They were getting battered. There was a wind gust. This was back when the storm only had like 60-mile-an-hour sustained winds with it. There was a gust of 70 actually reported in Key West, and they weren't actually even near the center of the storm because the center of the storm was about 55 miles to their west. So that was pretty impressive. From Cape Coral through Tampa, St. Pete, all the way up the Big Bend coastline here. Storm surge warnings and hurricane warnings from Tampa and Clearwater north from there. So it is expected to be a Category 1 hurricane on landfall. I don't think it's going to get any stronger than Cat 1 anywhere inside there, whether it's 80, 85, or 90, maybe even still 75, but I don't think it's going to get to a Category 2. Now, it will continue to track through Georgia here, and look at these wind gusts, by the way. All right. Look at these wind gusts when it comes on shore for the National Hurricane Center. Sustained winds, 65, winds gusting to 90 miles an hour while it's well inland. Usually gusts are about 10 or 20 miles over the maximum sustained winds. Like, look at this. This is inland Georgia, by the way. Sustained winds of 40, but winds gusting, according to this, to 75 miles per hour. Then it becomes a depression, still gusting to 50, and then look at this. Sustained winds of 40. The sustained winds come up, gusts come down. Now, at this point, it's tracking off the East Coast. Maybe it could be a strengthening system potentially off the eastern seaboard. Could gain a little bit more strength. But there is a tropical storm warning just south of Savannah around Brunswick, Georgia. That changed from watch to a warning. But still north of there through Savannah, still TS watch, probably will be changed pretty soon. So, as you look at the sea surface temperature anomalies, yes, they are average to below average, but they are still very warm, especially closer to the Florida coastline. All right, you guys got to understand, this is the Gulf of Mexico, right? The waters are still very warm. Now, we're going to get a better look at the water temperatures in just a minute, but I want to show you the National Weather Service radar to show you why it became a hurricane. I mean, you can see, A, strengthening, B, now over the past couple hours, there's been an eye forming, and it kind of like almost like two eye walls. That looks like one, but that's the real eye wall, the one right here. But even the one outside of that, like it was forming a couple of eye walls earlier, but the real eye wall on the northeast side is right there. But it's forming an eye. It is a hurricane. Notice, it hasn't even passed through Tampa yet, or west of Tampa, I should say, and it's already a hurricane. That part does concern me. Again, the waters are deeper out here in the Gulf. You can see by the brighter colors, the waters are a bit shallower. However, the water closer to the coast is also a lot warmer, and it's starting to leave that more hostile environment. Yes, it was still fighting that shear, and it's only going to be moving into an area of less shear. All right. So looking at the radar here again, this is like windy.com's version. And as you can see the storm moving north, and there's that eye forming right in there. All right. So it was starting to form an eye. You can even see once the eye starts forming, all right, right about here, you can start to see multiple little waves. All right, so an eye wall definitely did form, and even another eye wall just to north and west of that, like I showed you earlier. But Naples, you guys definitely getting hit right now. You're going to continue to get these feeder bands. The surge, once the hurricane has passed through you, that's when the surge begins. So it's north of Naples right now. I'll go to the most, I'll pause on the most recent frame so it's not confusing. So here's where the storm center is right now. All right, so I would say Northport, Cape Coral, and Naples, you guys are all in the surge threat. And probably Sarasota, if not right now, beginning probably very soon. We're going to get our first look here at the hurricane hunters because there is an aircraft that is flying in there right now. We're going to continue to get updates. We should get another update here in about 2 minutes. So once that update's all... they just started flying into the storm, by the way. Just so you guys know, this is from 8:03. They just started flying into the storm. And by the way, they are on the west side of the storm, I'm pretty sure. And they still picked up winds of almost 65 miles an hour. That's surface winds. And are already picking up pressures just above 1,000, maybe around 1,001, 1,002 millibars. As of last advisory, it was 996. Now, I'm thinking maybe this is the data that'll get fed into the 11 p.m. advisory, which is in 3 hours. And this video will not last for 3 hours. So, but we'll continue to get updates from there. Looking at the satellite, though, you can see the satellite imagery. You can see it's kind of winding up a little bit. It's easier to tell the eye on the radar. You really cannot see it that well on the satellite. Even though the convection's up here in Tampa, guys, the center is actually right here. I know it's harder to see, but the center is right about here. Because if you look on the radar, you can see the eye has not passed through Tampa yet. So the eye is not up here, even though a lot of the convection is. Low center is probably right about here, and it's going to continue to move due north. Maybe even a little bit west, but probably in a due north fashion. Probably will pass by Tampa and St. Pete, probably not making landfall there. It still could, honestly, but most likely landfall spot at this point, we're seeing pretty confident, is the Big Bend region. All right. So looking at our alerts, again, obviously it's Hurricane Elsa. Let's give it a little refresh. There we go. You can see hurricane warnings now, Tampa north through the Big Bend. But tropical storm warnings well inland through Brunswick and up through Charleston and Savannah. We have tropical storm watches. There's still a tropical storm warning actually for, I think that's the Dry Tortugas. Key West, they might have dropped the warning, but the whole west coast of Florida, between Tallahassee and Key West, is where we have those tropical storm warnings in effect right now. Sea surface temperatures, right? The water temperatures. Look how it's heading through. It's in or about to be going through water that's about 85. That is very warm. All right. And as it's going to be trekking inland, it will still be picking up some of that warmer water, even though it's inland. So it's not going to, it could strengthen over land. It's not going to rapidly strengthen. It might just stay the same. It might actually weaken to a tropical depression and start strengthening once it gets over the mid-Atlantic coast. Maybe some non-tropical strengthening. There are some upper-level winds could help give some more wind energy. But yes, it's heading towards some very warm water as it nears its landfall now. So water's getting warmer. The shear is going down a little bit more. Here is the wind shear map. All right, as you can see, I know it's hidden because the clouds are on top of it, but you can see the dark reds. That's high shear. That's not good. But look at around the Big Bend area. There's a lot less shear than what there is here. We're only seeing some blues. So wind shear will probably be going down, and sea surface temperatures are creeping up. So I wouldn't be surprised if this makes landfall with between 80 and 90 mile an hour sustained winds. Probably gusts higher than that. But of course, it could just stay Category 1 hurricane. Remember, National Hurricane Center also did say that this is going to make landfall with 65 mile an hour winds. They're really trying not to overestimate it. But they're underestimating it. So probably, I would say anywhere between 75 and 90 mile an hour sustained winds is a pretty good bet here for a landfall. 3 to 5 feet of surge, but with this sudden strengthening, I would see some spots that could get potentially over 6 feet of storm surge. And here you can see the radar, and you can see from the weather channel, actually, just like I said earlier, there is your eye. There is your eye wall. Here's kind of like a little mini, it's kind of like part of the eye wall, but I can call it like a little mini second one. So that eye wall is pretty much about to clip Venice, all right, pretty shortly. Or at least the extent of the eye wall. So the eye wall still will be probably heading towards Venice. So if you're in Venice, definitely look out for this thing because this is going to be clipping Venice, probably Bradenton and Sarasota as well over the coming minutes here. So there is your eye wall moving farther to the north. And of course, this will be moving pretty close to the coastline. So even though they might get close to land, the water temperatures are very warm when you get closer to land. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So again, let's get another look at the sea surface temperatures. The kind of like a Euro depiction. You can see closer to the coast, right? 84 according to the Euro, 85 even near Tampa. This is where it could probably do its real strengthening here once it passes by Tampa. You go out into the Gulf and it drops to 82. You get back in the Gulf Stream, it goes back up again. But in the Gulf, it is a couple degrees cooler. Sometimes that can make all the difference. Passed by Key West, 85 degrees sea surface temperatures when it passed through there, so it's pretty impressive. Now, let's take a look at the wind gust actually, because I want to take it through its landfall. And as you can see, even though the sustained winds might not be that high, I mean, I don't know what you guys consider not that high. You can see, according to the European model, sustained wind 60, but again, that's probably before all the latest updates have been coming in. So I like to look at the wind gust more, and you can see 90-mile-an-hour gusts. Look at this, wind's probably gusting close to, if not almost at 100 miles an hour, all right, at its landfall, and it's going to continue to move north. So let's flip to the rain map here so you guys can see as it moves through North Carolina. You can see the rainfall rates really pick up here, and then yes, the Mid-Atlantic will get hit by this as well. As it looks right now, the latest tracks for the last 1 or 2 days have brought it closer to the Mid-Atlantic coastline. It moves through New York, then through Boston. That's what the latest European depiction has. So for the Mid-Atlantic, yes, you guys too. All right, so let's bring it back to now. All right, and let's look at the GFS model. Very different story. There's still some pretty heavy rainfall rates. There's a storm right there. You can see it in southern Georgia, kind of just sitting there spinning around. But it's going to continue to get a little bit better organized. It will fade out a little bit, then get reorganized, all right, as it heads up through Virginia and the Carolinas. And then there's your rainfall pretty much just spreading up and down the Jersey Shore, down to the Delmarva, down to Virginia Beach. This is where we're seeing some more rainfall there as well. We've got an update here for the hurricane hunters. They are flying still south of center, it looks like. Okay, so they're flying south of center. Maybe they're trying to get a good pressure reading right away. Latest updates here have shown not really much changes. Still got that 1001 millibar pressure reading. We had one surface wind suspect about between 60 and 65 miles an hour. Another one picked up about 60. So 65 miles an hour is the highest we've seen so far. Of course, they just flew into the storm, so I'll be keeping you guys updated over on the community tab as well. Here is the ship's diagnostics message. You can see shear will continue to remain pretty low. Could drop a little bit more before its landfall. Sea surface temperatures are going to remain warm as well. Storm speed. Storm will be picking up in speed. It's moving up about 14 miles an hour right now. They'll probably pick up more towards 20 eventually. It'll pick up again because of the steering. Heat content is a little bit low, but we did see some pretty high heat content earlier, which led to the strengthening of the system. All right, so here is your model, guys. Pretty much bringing it right off the Mid-Atlantic coast. I can't say it's unavoidable at this point, but some models do bring it farther out to sea than others. Right, like here is some more light cycle track guidance. You can see a little bit more, like every model pretty much agrees. Like the next 96 hours, like every single model is like lined up like that. Like you cannot get any better than this with the models. Like in 96 hours, they all have it near off the coast of Maine or hitting Halifax. Like every single model. So that's pretty good accuracy with these models here. 72 hours, you can see it's off the Mid-Atlantic coastline. Some more track guidance. This is the GFS ensemble. As you can see, agreeing on the Mid-Atlantic, also agreeing on the Big Bend landfall. All right, the Big Bend area of Georgia. All right, here's some Euro track guidance. You can see also, now, this OFCL, that means stands for official. The black line is the National Hurricane Center, is where they have the center tracking through. So again, a lot of models are agreeing with that as well. All right, so moving on to some models now. All right, where is this going to go? All right, it is hitting Florida right now, and according to the HWRF, there could be some very heavy rain there for Central Florida, Orlando, even Melbourne might get clipped by that, the East Coast, the Space Coast, Cape Canaveral. But right now, this is as of 8 o'clock with this model, and you can see the southwestern part of the state is getting hit pretty bad. Now, this is usually a good intensity model, so if we take this through, notice how Virginia Beach, the Carolinas, and then look at that. Like, there is your tri-state area. All right, Philly's probably going to get hit pretty bad. Then it moves up through New York City, then Boston, then Maine, according to this, and then exiting through Canada. So that is the HWRF model. Now, how strong could the winds get? All right, after its landfall, as you can see, look how the winds start creeping up. 38 knots. All right, remember 34 knots is all we need for tropical storm status. Once it gets towards the Delmarva area, 45-mile-an-hour sustained winds, aka 40 knots. 50-mile-an-hour winds once it gets right here to the Jersey Shore. So that's definitely going to start pumping the winds in around it. All right, so 50-mile-an-hour winds, and then it kind of exits through Canada, maybe staying the same or maybe weakening a bit more. All right, GFS model. So GFS, you can see, takes it through Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Again, similar to HWRF, maybe a bit further off the coast, but similar track, pretty much up the East Coast and exiting out through Canada. All right, Canadian model, as you can see, same thing, except they have a big batch of heavy rain that's going to move right through Maryland, probably Delaware, southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey. That same band of rain goes to Connecticut, Massachusetts, and up through Maine. But in the short term, be ready on the west coast of Florida. All right, don't rule out surge that is over 6 feet. All right, I'm actually going to go to the waves, some of the wave heights right now to see what some of these waves are. And you can see offshore, definitely 12 feet. Now this is the GFS. Let's actually flip over to the European model real quick. You can see these waves get dangerously close here. Like these are 10 to 15 foot waves. The coast is still seeing those like 11-foot waves around Sarasota. All right, probably some waves as it heads towards landfall, maybe 10, 11-foot waves when it makes its landfall in the Big Bend, but probably going to be making landfall under hurricane status here. All right, and we could not leave out the European model, right? So here's a European model. As you can see, take a look at that pressure drop here. All right, you can see those pressure, the pressure lines are isobars are sort of tightening up. All right, then it moves through the Big Bend. You can see really no interaction with Tampa. All right, it doesn't really make landfall in the Tampa area. Then goes up to Big Bend, through South Carolina, through Georgia or North Carolina, but then some spotty afternoon thunderstorms still going to be left behind it. So that's entering North Carolina. All right, now it goes up the East Coast, and boom, there you go. Like that's 996. That's pretty much just as strong as it was when it made landfall. I don't think it will be a hurricane though. I think the pressure will be pretty low, but I think we'll probably be seeing tropical storm conditions if this model and model run plays out just right. All right, so if we look at like the Euro, I'll show you guys right here. All right, as you can see, if we were to go out 72 hours, you can see we got sustained winds there right about 50 knots. So that's about 60 miles an hour. So that is a pretty strong system, even from off the coast of the Mid-Atlantic, but still making landfall potential hurricane conditions. And before we close, let's get a last look here at some reconnaissance. So they're probably flying through a weaker part of the storm. I'll be keeping you guys updated. They're, like you can see, they just turned around and they're flying right back into the worst part of the storm. So keep you guys updated here. Thank you guys for watching. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.